Hey guys, what's up and welcome to the channel on the Shotgun Shogun, and this is the Infinite Library. Now, it has been somewhere around anywhere from 1 to 17 months since the last time that we did one of these due to reasons. But we're back and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of spicy topics. I am here with Snow and Pachex like normal. What's going on, guys?
Nothing too much. Just degen farming everything in this week so far. There is so much to do.
Yes, there is. Whew. At least we have the crafting essence, or the artifacts for Guilty Gear this time, though, so that makes it better.
Yeah, and one of the nice things too, though, is that, and I actually kind of glossed over this while I was reading the patch notes and everything, is you don't have to have the artifact leveled up to plus 30 anymore in order to get the max benefit out of it. You just have to have it limit broken.
Such a good change.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was a phenomenal change because I mean one of the things I always hated because I just never leveled up the event artifacts right there for a while because I mean they just aren't normally very good. It's like, oh, here you get 2.5% team-wide effectiveness, and I'm like, yeah, let me just dump all of my resources into this artifact to farm this event better. I guess I'll just use more leaves and skystones for refills instead of that. So I think that they'll probably, I hope that they do that moving forward for any of events that have that in it.
What do you mean? Like, what do you mean you don't want to level that up over your Elbrus?
That's true. I mean, you're right. And actually, when I was like first starting the game, right, like back in the day when we were all brand new, there were a couple of event artifacts that I'm just like, man, this event is really grindy. I need to be able to grind this a lot faster. So I've got a couple of them that are like in their 20s, and I just like used all the artifact the artifact charms you got from the event, all the stuff that I had, and I just was just slamming it in there. And now I'm just kind of like, oh, that's cool. I'm super glad that was a thing that I did. So yeah,
It hurts so bad when you use all those artifact charms.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of really grindy, that was how it was in the first Guilty Gear collab event. It was so grindy.
Oh yeah, no, and that's why pretty much for all of the new people who are doing Guilty Gear, you'll hear all the vets talking about how terrible it was, and you better get ready. Oh, you only have 400 leaves. Bold of you to assume that you're going to make it through this collab, son. But they did put in a lot of stuff to make it a lot easier, and I think that's real good because the first time around it was really, really brutal. Like I know a couple people that just didn't even finish getting their copies of Soul just because they just didn't want to grind anymore.
People keep asking me in the Discord how much stamina and leaves and stuff they need to use to get all the stuff in the Guilty Gear collab, and I'm like, I don't know, because they reduced the prices, they've changed a lot of the way you can farm things. I'm like, I don't know. The answer initially was everything you've got, and your wallet, and all of the money in your wallet.
Yeah, just farm all of it. The nice thing though is, and I was kind of on the fence about how easy they were going to make it. So initially I was kind of agitated that they would put the hunt buff and all the other buffs like rune buff, things like that, in at the same time, because you're kind of like, if you're an end game player and you need to get your gear on point, I mean, you really can't pass up the extra hunt materials and gold and stuff like that. So it was kind of like, do I farm the event, or do I just degen farm the crap out of, hunts for 4 days in a row for some reason because, I hate my wallet and I'm just going to refill with everything that I have. But, seeing where a lot of other people are, because I haven't really even touched the event itself, but seeing where a lot of other people are in terms of their farming, things like that, it does really seem like you could be able to just like go in a couple of days, of not even like degen farming, but like just a good couple of days and just knock everything out, which is good. Plus I don't need to buy more copies of Souls, so there's the less farming for that.
mind you, I actually have all three artifacts to work with, so
Oh yeah,
keep
same.
that in mind. But yesterday I went in and I farmed the collab because actually I found out it wasn't that much of a difference between that and running hunts, gold-wise, and that's what I need at the moment is gold more than anything else. So, like, gold-wise is quite good from farming hell mode in the side story. Plus, you get like the fodder drops. Plus, you can level 6 stars and things like that. So I did that yesterday, and autoing basically the whole day off and on. Probably not as hard as you auto Shogun, but the whole day off and on. I finished the whole tournament. I cleared out the whole shop except the runes, and yeah, it was pretty easy to do. So.
Oh, nice. And speaking of runes, man, I can't wait till the rune buff so that I can degen farm all of those. I was talking to somebody earlier, and I had mentioned that like literally the last time that I farmed runes like real hard was like, I don't know, probably like 3 or 4 like buff events ago. And I just sat down and like over the course of the weekend, I just farmed like 200 epic runes of like each color, and then I had like 1,000 greater of each one, and I'm like, man, I am set for a while. And then all of a sudden you get some specialty changes and you're like, oh, okay, well, you know, I'm still doing pretty okay. And then just unit after unit after unit, and then you're like, oh man, where did all of my runes go? So I'm actually looking super forward to that. And actually, do either of you guys know the buff that you got like from the specialty change pack that you could buy that like increases the amount of runes that you get? Do you know if that stacks with the buff with everything else?
I'm
don't
not
actually
too
know.
sure.
I hope
would
so.
I would assume it would go with like the buff section, and then the rune buff is like already applied. So I would say yes, just from going off of
I
that
hope
logic.
so, because I am going to hit that thing and then I am just going to degen all of them yet again until I am stacked for a hot minute. Just because I also
all the gold buffs and all the other buffs stacked, so I would say
yeah, that's true.
Or what you could do is wait for someone to post on Reddit to
Whether or
announce
not
whether
they did, yeah.
clearly Reddit is your most trustworthy
source of information. I mean, in that case, yeah, it would be. But I mean, some of their some of their stuff.
If there is a problem in the game, whether it's a real problem or not a real problem, you'll find out on Reddit first.
100%. Like Hunt 13s, which I'm doing right now. Which yeah. So
as am I.
As are we. But since we haven't done this in quite a while, Hunt 13s came out, level 90 gear came out because we needed that right away. You know, so when it first came out, Hunt 13 was kind of assumed that we would just get 85 gear. Like the 70 gear would be gone and we would get an equivalent amount of 85 gear in its place, just to get the gear grinding treadmill going a little bit faster, because realistically you could get like 1,000 pieces of super decent gear and you would still keep farming, because they're not the absolute highest roll maximum thing that you need, and you just need a bigger number and a chance at a bigger number. But so since they came out and since 90 gear was instituted, wasn't too bad at the very beginning to get level 90 gear. You would get, you get a decent amount of reforge materials in a decent amount of time. And then usually about every time you could reforge about 5 pieces into 90, you could do 1 conversion piece, which a lot of people were already not very pleased with at the amount of time and stamina that it took to get that going. And so a lot of people went to Reddit and Facebook and the internet in general to express their displeasure over the amount of 70 blue gear that they were getting in the hunt, as it was a slap in the face to them. Now, I personally have always used 70 gear as far as fodder, basically charms, because we get so many of those just overflowing with charms, just upgrading all of my gear constantly, never running out ever. So they went to express their discontent with the level 70 gear. And, as I was telling you guys before the show, I feel like Smilegate, a super creative, is a monkey's paw. And you go there and you're like, oh, I want my wish granted. And the monkey's paw goes, yeah, okay, cool. We'll grant your wish, but it is going to be literally not what you wanted, but technically it's what you wanted. And technically we fixed it. You're just not happy with the way that we technically took 70 gear out. And so now they just kind of gutted it. They moved reforged materials over to the second wave, and it is just really not good. Really, really not good. If you guys watched my video on Hunt 13s, it took me 128 runs to reforge one piece of level 85 gear to 90. One piece. And it would take how many runs did I say it was going to be? Like it would be times 10 because I only got 20 of the conversion materials. So 1028 runs or 1280 runs to upgrade one piece of conversion material. So F in the chat for steeple conversion, because you would have to be just smooth brain AF to dump your now limited amount of gear that you're getting into the steeple for a chance at a piece of gear.
I mean, to be fair, it's not like the conversion gave you anything useful to begin with anyways. It's always flat city.
Oh yeah,
no,
100%.
Honestly, my steeple gear has been terrible. I think that I was telling you this before the show as well, but I think people need to realize that they are dealing with a company that is comprised of Korean executives. Most of them probably don't speak a good amount of English. A lot of the stuff they get is translated, and if I know big companies, a lot of the stuff they're also getting is like, oh, the community is mad about the new changes. Okay, what are they mad about? They want you to take out 70 gear from Hunt 13. That's probably what the executives hear. And so they do that. They took 70 gear out of Hunt 13. But the problem is there's a lot of us here, I guess, in the global server and probably the Korean server as well, but who don't actually understand how their drop tables work, and the fact that progression is very, very tightly controlled by Smilegate Super Creative. So, they know how long they want you to take to get a hero up and running.
Well, yeah, and they've
if you tell them to remove
said
70 gear from the pool, if you tell them to remove 70 gear from the pool, 70 gear and 85 gear don't have the same drop rate. So they take out the 70 gear, they don't automatically connect the dots that means you want them to increase the drop rate of
85 gear up, yeah. And I mean, they've specifically said in the past that they have a formula of basically how much stamina you use versus what overall rewards that you get. And they have obviously for bookmarks, energy, things like that, they'll have value for that. And I see a lot of people complain about one dust, but theoretically that is the same as 5 bookmarks because it's gonna be a 3-star artifact anyways. So you just cut out the middleman and just immediately get your dust. So
yeah, honestly, dust isn't a bad drop. A lot of people complain about it, but dust is not a bad drop. Dust is used to buy 5-star artifacts that you don't have. It's used to buy bottles of knowledge that you can use to limit break your limited artifacts. It's used for, just artifact charms in general, which are pretty rare. Dust is not a bad drop, guys.
Yeah, but I mean, it's them moving the reforged materials into the pool of the second wave, which shares 85 gear as well as bookmarks, skystones, all that extra stuff, just made it infinitely harder to reforge your gear. So before I had a couple of pieces that I reforged up to 90 that were good. Were they perfect? No, but they were good enough, and I just wanted to get a little bit more, so now, however, since it's a lot harder, I am not going to upgrade anything to 90 that is not almost perfect because of the sheer amount of stamina that I have to spend in order to upgrade that one piece. Now, one of the things that they said is that this is going to make it easier on people who don't have perfect gear because, well, they can just, you'll get more crafting materials, right? Because you're guaranteed crafting materials. However, that doesn't negate the fact that now you're at a net negative for gold because you don't sell your 70 gear. And some people are like, oh, well, just sell your 85 gear. And it's like, okay, well, what am I upgrading my gear with? I have to have fodder or charms, and they're not really, making charms a lot easier to get. Maybe if they made alchemist steeple charms available like multiple times a week or something along those lines instead of once a week. But regardless, so you're net negative of gold. Crafting already kind of sucks in the first place. I've crafted through 30,000-40,000 wyvern fangs in one sitting, like 70 million gold worth of crafting to get 3 pieces that are really good and a couple of pieces that are just okay.
Don't you have like 3 videos out there with you just sitting there crafting through like your wyvern,
Indeed.
your golem,
Yep.
your banshee, and then wyvern again?
Yep.
That's like 4 videos at least.
Yeah, because it's like before reforging, and actually I've left my my breaths in my blacksmith now because there for a hot minute I was just reforging gear as I got my materials. So I would get materials and then I'd be like, okay, I got enough to reforge a piece. Boom. All right, this piece is good enough to reforge. Okay, got another one. So I didn't want to take, because typically I will move everything out of blacksmith into my hatchery, so that I can just mass summon penguins and then sell them for gold, or dogs, or whatever else I need. And I will only craft when I have a certain amount of, like, I'm just going to sit down and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to burn 70 million gold today on crafting. So I'll just move everything over to blacksmith, then craft everything, and then move everything back over to penguins. Because if you're not crafting all the time, you're not doing reforging and stuff like that, it's just kind of wasted breaths just sitting there doing nothing. And I like to get all of my disappointment out in one go. So, I just sit down for about 8 hours and just craft disappointment endlessly. So that is like, yes, okay, cool, you can craft more, and yes, maybe you'll get some better gear through crafting more, but you're going to be at a net negative of gold at the end of the day. Now, they did make it a lot easier because they cut the prices of crafting, and it's actually not super bad. I mean, I'll still run through all of my material or all of my gold before I run out of materials to craft, but it's not nearly as bad as it used to be.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of where I wanted to jump in, because this is the part where, frankly, I kind of blame the community a little bit, because so the initial, like, the whole reason this thing was a problem in the first place wasn't just because that they had level 70 gear in the Hunt 13, but also, like, the initial complaint I remember was, this is a nerf over Wyvern 11 because now we don't get as many crafting materials. And my counterpoint to that is, like, even Shogun, even you, like, the Great Whale, right? You run out of gold before you run out of crafting materials. Crafting materials has never been the bottleneck. Frankly, we get too many of them already. So, in my opinion, it wasn't a bad thing for them to remove some of the crafting materials and put the reforged materials there instead. The complaining about that is kind of why they decided, okay, we're going to push it over to the other wave, and now we have what we have. So, we're back to having, again, too many crafting materials, but it's even worse now because you have less gold to craft with. So, you're going to have even more of a surplus of those than you used to, your average player.
Yeah, no, and absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
And one of the things though with like never running out of crafting materials, I mean, there's people who make my whaling and my farming look like I'm just a little minnow, and I talk to some of them sometimes and I'm just like, literally just like, dude, I don't know how you're spending this much money on this. I'm like, I am very impressed by your dedication and your bank account, but it's never really a problem with materials. It is mostly gold because you need gold for pretty much everything. So it's like, if you do roll good pieces of gear, well, you need to fodder all of that stuff into it in order to level it up. And if it doesn't, if it doesn't roll well, then you're just kind of out gold right there. And it's just a big cycle. So like realistically, unless they amp the gold up now, I mean, like with the gold buff right now, it's really good. I mean, I've gotten, probably 40 million gold so far today, just farming just throughout today. So I mean, it might have been like a day and a half, but regardless, I'll burn through that really quick because you don't really have a 1-to-1 or any sort of like even ratio with materials, right? So it's like if I got 40,000 claws and I'm going through 40,000 claws, it's not like 40 million gold. Like if you could go through, 1,000 claws for 1,000,000 gold worth of crafting, then that would be a decent. I mean, that would be a lot of pieces that you're crafting right there. And I think that like if you're selling it, like you should only be out just a little bit, right? So like if it costs you the claws plus 50k to craft the piece of gear, maybe you should just be able to sell it for like 40 so that you can just cycle through your materials without cycling through all your gold, and then you can just like just go through it that way. And it just really doesn't feel that way at all. And like gold is pretty big problem. Now there are ways to get around that, like I said earlier, with like with mass summoning penguins. Like I don't use anything but like 1-star penguins to level anything up. I sell every 2 and 3-star penguin, and if you just sit down and you just slam through like 30k worth of stigma, the amount, if you have your hatchery maxed out, I mean, you get back quite a bit of gold, because that's usually what I do after I move everything back after one of my disappointing crafting sessions, is I just burn through all of the stigma that I have from farming, because you get a ton of stigma from farming. And then I just turn it into penguins, and then I just sell all those penguins, and that takes me about a good chunk of the morning. But that's usually how I recoup that. So, but overall, they definitely slowed down the reforge materials, the progression there. And now the problem with that is that degen whales, literally from the day Hunt 13 dropped, have been endlessly farming it. There was somebody on Reddit who said that they have reforged 100 pieces. Now, I don't know about that. I mean, I could see it, I guess. I'm not close to that. I mean, I've got quite a few pieces reforged, and up to 90, not anywhere close to 100. But now that they have limited your progression even further, the gap between those people who spent every waking moment from the time that Hunt 13 dropped till now are going to be exponentially further than anybody who started after them will ever be, because they were there farming that during the time that was actually dropping like quite a bit.
He definitely must have gotten real lucky with those 50 drops, man. It's so rare.
Yeah, no, they 100% are. And like the thing is like I farm a lot. I work from home. I farm pretty much nonstop all day. I don't really sleep very much. So I mean, I farm a lot. So unless they have some sort of like secret like one-shot team, I don't know, because yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you had one-shot comps and were willing to spend just massive amounts of money, I could see it.
Right. But I mean, I don't think anybody's done. Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think there's a one-shot Wyvern 13. I mean, somebody could probably do it a bit faster than me, but like, I get a Wyvern done in about a minute and a half, 2 minutes if it's like semi-slow.
Which means that I don't necessarily want to say that this exact person did this, but like the only way to do that is 24-hour macros.
Well, yeah, and I mean that's
sleep,
yeah. I mean, I just don't sleep, but that's a whole other story.
I want to know how many Skystones and Leafs that guy like burned through. Like that sounds like a lot. Like,
I know how many I've burnt through in terms of Skystones and money, and I mean, if he did 3 times as much as me, then yeah, yikes on that guy's bank account.
You know, I think the best solution to this whole thing in the first place would have been like keep the reforged mats in wave 1. They were fine there.
Yep.
We can deal with the slight loss of crafting materials. They in fact boosted the crafting materials a little bit because they knew that that was going to be a thing. So keep those there, and then if you want to take 70 gear out of the wave 2, I think that's fine if they had replaced them with like all 85 blues. Because that way 85 blues are still worth a little bit more gold than 70 blues, but not enough that it's going to be like amazing. And SG still gets to keep the rate of purples and reds that they want to have.
Yeah. No, I could.
So
I mean,
I felt like that
yeah.
would have been a much better way to do it.
And I think prior to this, it was always like from 3 reforged mats to 50, right? Like it can be anywhere in between. Or...
yeah. No, it was one or the other. It was either 3 or 50.
Okay.
The 50 is like a rare material drop that like flashes gold.
Yeah, so you got one or the other. Now it's 4 or 50.
Still really rare.
Yeah, it definitely
like,
is.
Yeah,
and that's the biggest thing that you touched on earlier, Shogun, is that like steeple gear is just not a thing anymore. Like I will never upgrade another piece of that until this is changed, because the materials that we need to reforge those are so freaking rare. Like, didn't you say it was like 32,000 stamina to reforge maybe one of those?
Yeah, something around that. Because I mean, it takes like 1,280 runs based on my 128 runs, just to do that. So just multiply that by 2022.
Yeah, so see, that just totally kills that system. I will never use that system again until that is fixed.
Right. So, and I mean, the thing too is like now you kind of have to pre-plan, right? Like, and I think that this is going to make people a lot more picky on like what gear they actually invest in, because like if you don't plan on taking that piece of gear to 90, like why would you waste the materials? It would be almost literally a waste to take it to plus 15 if, you know, let's say you get like 2 min rolls on like a stat that you want, right? So like let's say you're going attack and like one of them rolls 4 and then the next one rolls 5, you know, kind of at that point you might as well just dump that, because that's a piece of gear that, do you really want to take this to 90? Do you want to waste those materials on this? And I think that that's, you know, it's going to be real rough, because I've already fallen into this. Like even when 90 first came out and the materials were a lot easier to get, I would look at a piece of gear very like, you know, under the microscope, like, okay, cool, I can get another, you know, 4 attack, but you know, this one I've already rolled like 2 5s in a row on this. I'm like, I might as well just dump this, because it's not going to be anywhere close to what it could be at max. So, you know, it's going to be real rough for a lot of people trying to think about what it is that they need to what to keep as they want to level things up to 90.
Yeah, up until now, even if it wasn't the perfect piece, I'd still roll it just to see how it turned out. And if it was a halfway decent piece, like I was looking for usable up until now. But now, particularly with how rare those reforged mats are, I'm looking for like near perfect. So I'm only rolling something if it's near perfect base rolls, and I'll only keep rolling it if it rolls next to like as high as it can go. Like that's where we're
realistically at right now. Like on purple gear right now, I used to go to like +9 just to see what I would get. Now if I have a piece that has like good substats, I will go to +3 if the first roll is like especially if it's like a 4 speed, right? If it's not 4 speed, or 3 or 4 speed, I just don't even bother. But if it's like, let's say I have a crit piece and the substats crit hit, crit damage, and attack, and the attack and the crit hit damage and all those are like really high, if I don't get a near perfect roll on the first like 2, yeah, it's gone. Like there's no real reason for me to continue to level this piece and have an overall net loss of gold and XP. I could just feed that to the next piece and then just go through the gear cycle treadmill, if you will.
Oh, there's some dead guy up here.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be. I don't like the changes. I'll just go ahead and say that. I think the original was better. Oh, go ahead.
You said, like, if it rolls 2 min, Like that's just a typical day in Epic 7, man.
Well, yeah, no, and that's why I will go through. My inventory will be full. I'll have 225 new pieces of gear, and I don't have any pieces of gear afterwards because they all just rolled min rolls, and then I just load myself up and do it again.
That's kind of where we're at now.
Yep.
Come to that.
But
I
thing
think
is,
they need to fix this.
they definitely do. And I mean, there was already the concern about, whales versus the normal person, but it's all the people that are going to be at the absolute pinnacle of RTA have already farmed all this gear. They have multiple characters just all kitted out in, 300 speed, maxed out stats on everything. So you're never going to be able to catch up, especially now that they kind of just broke everything. But
yeah, a lot of them aren't looking for new gear. They're looking for the mats only because they have,
just like that guy that has a 280 K-Ron that has 300 crit damage. My goodness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That guy's a mad lad.
Yeah, absolutely. But off of the topic of gear, something that I wanted to bring up is the what seems to be the steady release of counter heroes. Now, one of the things is that instead of nerfing characters, Smilegate decides that we're just going to put out a character that just directly hard counters this other character that everybody hates. Case in point, they tried to put Pavel out to counter SSB. Now, that didn't work for them very well, and they had to buff him later because they also put out counter units that are very kind of under-tuned, and then you put them in against the unit, and then they just get dunked anyways. So you're kind of like, oh, this is cool. But it seems like almost every character that comes out now is a counter to Basar, Seaside Belle, or Arbiter Vildred / revive meta. And it'll be in one of the things I kind of want to see is them to just move away from this. I feel like we haven't gotten a unit that's not just a hard counter unit in a really long time. Even Cerise kind of felt like a unit that was supposed to counter the speed cleave CR push meta, and it just feels like we're on this treadmill of who is the unit that everybody's complaining about today. Cool, make an ice waifu that hard counters that unit. And I know a lot of people are very upset about that, especially with units that outside of their niche aren't really that good. Because let's say you have Rowana against a team that doesn't have a dual attacker or a counter attacker or anything like that. She kind of isn't really good unless there's a Charles or a Seaside Belle on the other team. And so you'll get this unit and you'll build them, and then you can pretty much only use them for that scenario. And I feel like it leads to a lot of people being very harsh on new units that don't really bring anything new. They just bring something to counter something that was already there.
I think part of the issue with that is, and this happens in every game, look at League of Legends too, but when you get this many heroes released and this many mechanics, the developers legitimately start to run out of ideas. It's hard to come up with something that is new when you have all of these things already, is I think part of it. But I don't know, I'm personally a fan of niche characters, but not only niche characters. I do agree with you. I think there needs to be a healthy balance of characters that are really, really good at one specific thing, and a healthy balance of characters that maybe aren't so good at that one specific thing, but can do several other things as well.
Yeah,
and I do feel like we've been pointing too far into the niche direction lately. Yeah.
Or even the same thing. You don't have to put out a niche counter character, right? You could just literally go. What we haven't had in a while? We haven't had a green tank. Now, this green tank isn't going to counter anybody directly. You know, everybody complains about the water meta, so, you know, this green tank may, you know, help out with that, but this green tank does this thing, not directed at a niche to anybody. You know, they could just do stuff like that. They don't have to, every character doesn't have to be a hard counter to something else that's in the game. You can just go, hey, you know what, we haven't had another you know, dragon waifu in a hot minute. Just throw one in there. Well, who's she supposed to counter? Their wallet? I don't know. Like, have her get bonuses against their wallet and their bank account. You know, that's it would be nice. And it just kind of seems that a lot of times too, it's very semi-lazy when they put out these new units, and it's just like, oh well, this skill can't be counterattacked. Oh, this skill gives them skill nullifier, you know, and they're trying real hard to get through the revive meta. So it's like we've gotten like 2 back-to-back characters that just are geared towards countering the revive meta. And, you know, the niche characters are good, but it is one of those things too where it's like, do you want to invest in a unit that, well, if they don't pick any revivers in RTA, well, you're not gonna pick that character. You know, they're okay outside of, you know, countering revivers, but, you know, they're super godlike if there are revivers on the other team. But it's like, do you bring an okay unit because you invested in them, or do you just invest in a unit that is universally used? And yeah,
I think you actually just touched on what, in my opinion, is actually the bigger issue. Like, I don't think the issue is them releasing niche units. I think the issue is what you said. Are you going to bring the one that you have invested in? Are you willing to invest in them?
Yeah.
And what you mean when you say that is, are you willing to put Molagoras in them?
Right, which their answer to Molagoras, just add another Molagora pack to the shop. That's really easy. Don't make it so that we give you an extra one a week, 1 or 2 a week, or reduce the cost, or, you know, give you a Molagora refund. Just throw another one in the shop.
I need to also point out that last year, how they said they were going to release the rest of Hell Raid, I think during like the same developer notes or a couple before or after, I can't remember exactly, but they said they were going to release more access to Molagora, which they
didn't they do automation tower,
but like after that it hasn't really, you know, nothing more has been added.
Well, you can get Mola Seed in World Boss once every like 3 or 4 months.
I think you could do that also, I guess.
You know, so they'll be like, technically every time you do World Boss, you have a chance for a Molagora. Now, it's a tiny chance, but that's just how Mafia works. And so then you're like, man, I need to invest in these units. And they're like, oh, hey, here's another Molagora pack. So I feel like there's going to be a little bit of backlash on that one from the free-to-plays that are just going to get exponentially further away from the whales. I mean, they already had the catalyst packs, so you don't even have to farm catalysts anymore. You just buy catalyst packs for whoever you need, and then you just live in Wyvern. It feels like they're slowly putting just more and more stuff into the paid model, so that, you know, oh, you don't want to farm Stigma. First off, I have no idea who is buying Stigma packs, but I'm glad that they made that a thing that you can do all the time. Not really, but it just seems like
I want to get on my Molagora soapbox before we derail too far.
All right, go for it.
I'm very, very passionate about. Molagoras, in my opinion, are a fundamentally broken system. They have done numerous price reductions in Molagora, and they've refunded us multiple times. They are still nowhere near enough. To me, that says the system itself is broken. They release more new heroes than we can ever get to plus 15, and yet the thing that they are promoting in the game is RTA, which if you are taking a non-plus 15 unit to RTA, you're not going to win for the most part.
You're going to get dunked.
Yeah. You're going to get dunked on. Because,
especially if you're a tank or a DPS. Like, those are literally the two. Now, you can get away with, way less than 15 on healers and support sometimes, but is plus 6 Dizzy going to be better than a plus 15 Dizzy in the same gear? No, absolutely not.
Nope.
Absolutely
every
not.
bit of damage counts.
Right.
So I feel like it's a broken system that needs to be entirely overhauled from the ground up. I don't think it needs to exist. I think if you are lucky in it, like you, whether you pity the hero, spend money to get the hero, buy all the mystic packs to get the hero, you should be able to farm that hero to their maximum potential. Farm them. I don't even care if it's expensive. You should be able to farm that hero to their maximum potential, and that's my feelings on Muligura.
Right. And I mean, I think the big thing too is, you know, and you touched on this, is that they do put out too many units a month that we can never plus 15. You know,
and then if you get lucky on Covenant, you get new units from the past that you can't ever Muligura because there's not enough even for the new ones.
Right.
Yeah,
And
you can only get like 3 Muligura a week, and there's only like so many weeks in a month.
Well, so I was talking to somebody and they said to plus 15 a 5-star takes 6 to 7 weeks. So it's a month and a half to plus 15 a 5-star. That's not also not including catalyst, but you can farm those through AP, whatever. But like, you are hard time gated by Muliguras, and I know that they want the longevity of the game and all this other stuff, and that's fine. I totally get that, but unless
Gear
they're going to
Gear does that already. We don't need Muligura as well.
Yeah, Gear does that, but like the thing too is if you continue to put out more and more and more new units, you're literally never going to be able to catch up. Like, you're just never going to be at a point where you're like, oh, okay, well, cool, you know, I have all of my units plus 15, can't wait for that new unit to plus 15 that one too. And so, you know, and like you said, you're going to get units from the past that you're gonna need to skill up. Like, I pulled Spectre Tenebria. I literally haven't done anything with her because I do not have the Muliguras to put into her, so leveling her up.
You need a plus 15er, so good luck.
Right.
And during those 6 to 7 weeks, like, of you just plus 15ing that one hero, Smilegate probably already released like 12 hero banners.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is, so like in that time you get a new ML 5-star, you get a new ML 4-star, and you usually get a new ML or a new RBG 5-star. So you're already getting 3 new units that you can't plus 15. Not only that, but even right now, the Guilty Gear collab's going on. So there are people that, you know, didn't get these units last year. You've got 3 limited units, 4 limited units if you count Soul. Not only that, but you're going to have ML Haste. You just had ML Angelica. You know, you just had all of these units that are just in the game, and there's absolutely no way that you're going to plus 15 them. Like, and
you know,
yeah.
A lot of people have suggested that, like, maybe we should just be able to recall Muliguras from people who've used before. A lot of people have suggested, well, you know, maybe they can just increase the amount of them. Maybe they can do another refund. Maybe they can remove them all from 4 stars. None of those things solve the problem. They help, and they help for a good amount of time, but none of those things solve the problem. So long as SG keeps releasing new heroes faster than you can get the Muliguras to plus 15 them, it's not going to ever solve the problem.
And like the thing that gets me too,
tape on a flooding dam.
Yeah, and the thing is though, is if like you bring this up too, the thing that always got me is like people will try to defend that by saying, well, you just need to prioritize the units that you put Muliguras into. Now, when I first started the game, I had no clue what I was doing. I mean, I would just put Muliguras in random units that I was using at the time. That's why, like, Ken's got a couple here and there. Ravi's got a couple here and there. Silk has a bunch because, like, when the game first came out, Silk was, like, you know, super, super good. So, like, I have all of these Muliguras into just random units. Not only that, but let's say you know, plus 12 a unit, right? And then they kind of fall off of the meta, or, you know, you're, like, you just don't use them anymore. Now you just literally have all those Muliguras sitting there, just sitting there. And the thing too is, you know, and like I mentioned in my video that I made a while ago, like, even if you just gave me the option to pull my Muliguras out of that unit, not my catalyst, I don't even care, or the money, the gold that I use, the catalyst, I don't care, just give me my Muliguras, like, I would be okay with that, because then,
and again, it'd help. That would help. It wouldn't fix it. It would help, but it wouldn't fix it.
Right. Right, because I mean, again, there's never going to be enough to fully plus 15 everything on your account. And realistically, if you're a completionist, well, then you want to do that. When I played FGO, I wanted all of my unit skills to be maxed out. And I was actually kind of annoyed by the fact that you needed to have crystallized lore in order to be 10-10-10. So that was also kind of like a bottleneck there, but
I'm also convinced the meta is what it is because people don't have enough Molagoras to invest in things, so they have to
100%.
invest in the things that they know are going to be useful, right?
Right.
So people aren't willing to go out and just like invest all these Molagoras in like Araminta and build a team around Araminta because it might not work. And if it doesn't work, well, you've just screwed your account over because you've used all these Molagoras in Araminta.
Oh yeah, 100%. And like the thing is like even if they just put in the once a month refund, right? Like, so let's say you just went in plus 15 Araminta and you're like, oh well, that didn't work. You can come back through and then you can just take those out. Like, you can fix your mistakes. And I feel like a lot of new players, they're gonna make mistakes, like I did when I was first playing the game. I didn't think that Molagoras, like when you first start playing the game too, they just kind of throw stuff at you and you're just kind of like, oh okay, well cool, I'll level up this character's skill, let me level up this character's skill, that's cool. And then you get to endgame and you're like, oh man, this sucks, I'm never going to use this unit again.
Pretty sure a lot of people, when they were going through like the beginning of the campaign, and they saw Goblicus, that little goblin merchant in like Node 3, and then they saw like all these equipment that were like 720 mil.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, if this guy's over here and he's like just nonchalantly showing this Gavilee sword for 720 mil, gold must be really easy to get in the game, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember. Like, wow, man, this is really expensive. We'll just be able to get gear from buying it off this guy. All this easy peasy gold will be dropping.
Yep. I don't know. It's a big problem. Again, I feel very strongly about it. I think Molagoras suck. And
like, we're definitely in a better place in terms of Molagora from back then. Like, remember Molagora Agora? I wish I could forget.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, we've gotten so many refunds for Molagoras, like the players who've been playing a long time and like wailed on Mola packs and stuff. But your brand new player who comes into Epic 7 doesn't have any of that. He hasn't gotten those hundreds of Molagoras from the refund, so we have a pretty huge advantage on him that he is never going to be able to overcome.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And like, I mean, that's pretty much like just about any game that you go into, though, right? Like, if you've been playing it forever, you're going to have a natural advantage over somebody who just picked the game up today. But at the same time, I also feel like if you put in the time and the effort to farm that, you should be able to at some point catch up. Like, that's
the thing. It's like, since Molagoras are time gated, they are never going to make up those hundreds of Molagoras that you have over them.
Right,
if
like even
at least they can focus on 3 or 4 units and get them up to par.
Yeah, like even in Grand Blue, if you didn't do previous events, they just roll over gold bricks and Damascus stuff like that, so you can just degen farm harder, and then you get that stuff that you might have missed previously to help you catch up to where everybody else is. And I think that that's a very good system, because you're gonna obviously have new people who are just gonna go in and they're gonna not have their stuff plus 15. They're just gonna get absolutely dunked on, and then their enjoyment of the game is going to be a lot less, because they're gonna be more frustrated because they can't ever catch up to where these other people are.
And I think the thing that frustrates me the most is when people act like there isn't a Molagora problem. Because the people that act like there isn't a Molagora problem, or that prices are just fine, they're the ones that either haven't been very lucky yet, they're new to the game, or they don't PvP at a high level. Because, like, honestly, I was doing pretty okay Molagoras as well, until I all of a sudden got lucky and rolled 3 ML5s pretty close back to back.
Yeah.
And after that happened, I have never ever caught up again. And even with all the refunds, I go through those Molagoras in like 5 minutes. Ask the people at the top of RTA rankings if they think there's a Molagora problem, and I'm pretty sure they'll tell you there is.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I spend them as fast as I get them. Like, literally, whenever we got the refunds, they were gone into, meta units that I needed at the time, and, or limited waifu units. And yeah, you're just never going to have enough. And it is a very big glaring problem. I'd almost say, yeah, that and, you know, gear are probably like the two biggest things, especially for me, you know.
And the solution's pretty obvious. Just gotta be a Korean and complain about it.
Yeah. No, they don't listen to us global players. They listen to the people that that are going to threaten to like one star the game.
There you go, guys. Let's go have a press conference in Korea. That'll solve this.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think that so we've been talking for a hot minute. We're gonna have to wrap this up here real soon. Anything that you two want to talk about before we close this out?
I'm gonna do like a really forced segue. Speaking of change, we have a specialty change.
Oh yeah,
that
specialty
needs to be
draft.
talked about.
Yeah, they finally made our main character a main character.
I gotta tell you, I don't actually even know what he does yet, but he looks decent.
So his S2, which previously sparked a dual attack from the highest attacker, has a chance to defense break before the attacker hits. So you can combo into a defense break, which is pretty phenomenal. His S3 gives everybody on the team defense up, and his S1 gets rid of buffs.
His S1 dispels a buff. His S2, which you can soul burn to have 0 cooldown, has a 60% chance to defense break, and do a Tamarine S1 when idle form.
Mhm.
That sounds pretty
and
nice.
gives him and the attacker 2-turn immunity.
That sounds, well, for one thing, that sounds very good for PvE. I think that's going to help a lot of newer players out as far as like some of these abyss floors and things like that.
Yeah. Some people have thought of making him a bruiser, but looking at his multipliers, they're not very impressive. So he should more likely than not play the support role.
I'm going to build him super fast so I can get a whole bunch of S2s off.
Yeah. So like, since he's a knight, he can play his support role really nicely by you slap a Bastion Pelusia on to help your highest CPS like get an immunity and that big fat barrier. Since his S3 scales off of his HP, you should make him like really fast and tanky.
So just kind of like my Lilius, I have her just super fast, super tanky.
Yeah, you know, since Lilius is gone lore wise supposedly, I guess Ross had to take the mantle.
Yeah,
She'll still be alive in RTA.
I hope she's alive because I really like her. Fuck what you say.
But yeah, no, I actually think that the special change is going to be pretty good. I've already seen people talk about how it's not great. It's going to be good for like new players and like
They've
free
said
to
that on
plays,
every
but
unit since
they-
like Disney came out
yeah.
the first time. Like,
And
no
that
anybody.
is why I just Bizarre exists, guys. Like who why would you specialty change Ras? Bizarre exists.
He sure does.
Yeah.
Clearly. Why would you use Ross when you can just use Arbiter Vildred?
Yeah. Yeah. Imagine using a 3-star when you could just use Arbiter Vildred, dude.
Guys, you just gotta start thinking out of the box. One of the members in our Discord used this free unequipped to make a destruction set Tamarin, and she crit Golem 13 for 20k with her S1.
Oh yeah, no, I tried
did
that.
in RTA.
Yeah, because there was the post about that a while back. Yeah.
He clapped everyone on the team, and they were like, "What just happened?"
Yeah, no, I did that.
Tamarin had enough, and she was not taking anymore.
Yeah, I did that a couple times after I saw that post. It was pretty fun. It was pretty fun, but not like super viable.
So that's what her useless attack and awakenings were for.
That's right.
I guess so. I guess that's how they
100%, dude.
should have used her the whole time.
Yeah, no, it's that is like one of the things I like about free unequip is just trying out other units. But then again, it does come back to the whole I'm gonna try out this unit with no Mologoras. So yeah.
Yep. And again, like that's only a real problem if you're trying to be competitive in PvE or in PvP. but like a lot of us are, and that's kind of
Right.
the end game. So
I mean,
it's
yeah,
a
that is
problem for us.
pretty much the end game in this game, and that's one of the things I try to tell people too. I'm like, yeah, if you don't like end game PvP, then probably not the game that you want to get into. But
I don't know. A lot of
yeah.
people are saying that Ross's specialty change isn't that impressive. I still say he's still one of the top 3.
I mean, a 60% chance to have your highest DPSer go right into a defense break sounds like a setup for one-shotting quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah, I think he'll be seeing a few play in GVG.
Oh yeah, he'll
often
be
than not.
real good in Guild Wars for sure. But I definitely think that if you just make him super fast, like the other thing too is he does give everybody a defense buff, which I think that a lot of people underestimate just how much damage a defense buff will cut. If you hit him with a defense buff and attack down, yeah, good luck. You're just literally hitting like a wet noodle.
Defense buff screwed me over in Guild Wars today. In fact, I tried to S2, S3 and Akali with Biken, and she didn't die, and I was very shocked about that.
Yeah. So there's that, and I do think like the 60% chance to S2 into your highest DPSer is just going to be set up for just easy kills.
No cooldown, by the way. Remember that it only costs 10 souls to do
10 souls
to do his soul burn.
Super easy. So you just set it
So
up.
that's a little bit like the Spectre Tenebria thing, then, where you can just soul burn and attack and soul burn and attack and soul burn and attack, except he can do it even more time.
Right. Well, he doesn't get another turn though. It's just no cooldown.
That's what it did. That's good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. If he just got another turn and it didn't cool down, yeah, no, you would just run.
I'm like, that sounds like a good unit.
Yeah, no, it would be pretty ridiculous. But I mean, easily the way you'll probably use it is you'll get a defense buff up first, attack buff whoever your attacker is. You get through your initial first turn, and then the second turn, depending on who you have, you'll probably have 10 souls, and then you just S2, and then you just S2, and then you just keep going through that. And I mean, by that time you probably should be doing your thing. But yeah, no, I think it'll be good. I'm interested to see like what people do with it. Obviously, I'll have it done once I can get all the runes for it.
I'm a fan of specialty changes in general, like especially if they're good. Like some of them are very, very good. Some of them are just kind of niche. Some of them are pretty okay.
Some of
But,
them
like,
are
all of them-
Falconeer
all of them-
Quarry.
Yeah, all of them I'm glad to have though,
Clearly.
because again, they don't take Molagoras. You can plus 15 them, and often they're very strong.
I mean,
Yeah.
clearly the best specialty change was Hazel. All right.
Yeah, Mersa's specialty change when. That's
Lord
what I'm
Harado,
looking
guys. Lord Harado. I'm telling you, AoE extinct.
Alright,
It
I'm
is
gonna
death.
I'm gonna spoil Shogun's next video on balling on a budget. All right, balling on a budget, Arbiter Vildred. Everyone has Arbiter Vildred. You can't tell me
That's true.
if you know it.
Well,
Not
if this was Japan server, that might be accurate.
But all right, guys, we're gonna head out of here. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back with another one eventually.
Yeah.
Probably.
Cracky.